What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about something that needs to be addressed in the YouTube community, well, at least the YouTube real estate community, and that is the constant barrage of videos that are in front of our face every single day about a coming or imminent housing market crash. Lately, I feel like that's all I've been seeing on YouTube recently in regards to the housing market. And in my previous video, I did give my top 5 reasons why I thought that the housing market may actually crash or at least take a downturn by the end of this year, 2022. So go definitely check that out after this video. But I felt it was important to kind of balance that out a little bit. So on today's video, I'm going to share with you my top reasons why I think that the housing market will not crash this year in 2022. Now, these clickbait type videos may make you feel better if you've been unable or unwilling to get into the housing market and buy real estate within the last 2 years. After all, it can be comforting to be told that a housing market crash is coming after you've seen that the real estate prices have gone up 20% each year while you have been sitting on the sidelines. Now, I always go out of my way to give a balanced approach. I like to give both sides because at the end of the day, I am not a fortune teller and nobody else is as well. So I try not to scare people with imminent housing market crash type videos or information because frankly, I don't know. But on the other side, I don't like to be, or I try not to be, a typical real estate agent that says that just buy real estate no matter what. Home prices and real estate prices can never go down because supply and demand. That's not really 100% true either. As I said, I don't know the future. Nobody does. I just like to give some valuable information and data to everyone. That way they can make the most well-informed decision for themselves or for their families, whether they're a buyer, a seller, or an investor in this market. So let's get to it. Now, if you didn't already know, my name is Jay Costa. I'm a real estate agent and investor here in Northern New Jersey. And if you get any value or enjoyment out of this video at all, please smash that like button down below. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Would truly appreciate it. Now onto the video. Now, the first number one reason why the housing market will not crash this year in 2022 is, you guessed it, low inventory. Since the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, the sudden surge of millennial buyers that suddenly found value finally in purchasing a home, as well as access to all-time low interest rates, created a market environment with simply way more demand than supply. You've heard this over and over before by many real estate agents and real estate people on YouTube, and I'm sure in person as well. It is no surprise. But frankly, here in Northern New Jersey, in my local market, we've been in a pretty strong seller's market since I started selling real estate back in 2016. So I believe that home prices were trending higher very quickly, even before the pandemic began. But what I think the pandemic did was basically put gasoline on an already lit fire. And we basically got, let's say, 5 years worth of home value increases in the span of 2 years. That's basically where we're at right now. So I have people asking me all the time, where are we going from here? Is the market going to crash? Is it a bubble like 2008? Even though we're getting some bubble-like symptoms right now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a crash in the housing market. At least not yet. You see, last week, the Dallas Federal Reserve released a report saying that there is some bubble-like traits in the housing market right now and compared it to 2006 to 2008, citing FOMO, fear of missing out, and buyer exuberance, quote unquote, for reasons why the housing market may be unsustainable. The Fed created this chart, which shows housing price exuberance, quote unquote, when compared to what the Fed thinks the market demand should be in a normal market. As you can see, although we are above that 95% confidence threshold, which is where it thinks that the buyer demand should be, it is nowhere near where it was from 2006 to 2008. So even if we are in a technical bubble, a housing market bubble right now, that does not mean that it's about to crash. We may be very far off from a potential crash. Home prices could very easily continue to go up even in bubble-like conditions. Or conversely, the high interest rates that we're seeing right now could get that FOMO, those FOMO buyers out of the market, get a little bit more of a balanced market, buyers and sellers, and we could avoid a bubble crash altogether. Now, the second reason why I think that the housing market may not crash in 2022 is interest rates. Yes, interest rates. After 24 months of access to the lowest interest rates that this country has ever seen. A lot of people think that the higher interest rates that we're seeing now could spur on this inevitable housing market crash that everyone's talking about. Even though your first thought may be that higher interest rates means that the housing values go down, it's not necessarily the case. We have discussed in the past in previous videos on how a 1% interest rate rise in your 30-year mortgage means that you lose about 10% of your purchasing power as a buyer. That could affect and will affect the housing market very quickly, but not in the way that you think. According to Douglas Duncan, the chief economist of Fannie Mae in 2013, said that, quote, "There's no strong correlation between interest rates and home prices." And as you can see in this chart, he's right. There doesn't seem to be very much of a correlation at all. But in this chart here, you actually see a very strong correlation between interest rates and not home prices, but home sales. So if history is any guide, this means that with the higher interest rates, the home prices will stay the same or go up, but the home sales, the amount of homes selling, will go down. And that's obvious, right? The higher the interest rates, the lower the buyer is willing to pay, and the less likely a seller is willing to sell out of their house with a low interest rate and move to a home with a higher interest rate mortgage. It doesn't make any sense for buyers or sellers, so you get a lower amount of sale. The third reason why I think that the housing market will not crash in 2022 is the qualifications, the well-qualified buyers that are in the market. Even though many of us still have the imprint of the 2008 recession or Great Recession still imprinted in our mind, the run-up in housing prices then compared to the run-up in housing prices now is very different in multiple ways. The number one reason being the credit worthiness and the qualifications of the buyers in that market. From 2006 to 2008, after being incentivized by the federal government to give the American dream of owning a home to more and more people, lenders started giving out mortgages to people that should not have been getting them. No income, low credit, nothing down. If you had a pulse, the lender would give you a mortgage. These buyers were getting by the skin of their teeth already. So once values started taking a step back in 2006, things started getting tight, forcing many home buyers who were already underwater on their mortgage and unable to afford the monthly mortgage payments. They decided to simply get up and leave, and they left their homes, causing a flood of foreclosures to hit the market, and that's really the beginning of the housing market crash that we saw back then. Since then, the federal government has passed so many laws in order to stop that from ever happening again. The restrictions and the guidelines to lenders on mortgages is exponentially tighter and tougher than it was 17 years ago. So they truly only give mortgages out to people that truly can afford them. In fact, during the buying spree of the COVID pandemic, the buyers in the housing market were the most well-qualified buyers that we've ever seen. In fact, during the home buying spree from 2020 on, the home buyers in this market have the highest creditworthiness and the highest income for home buyers that we've ever seen. So if there was a case where home prices cool off and start to go down a little bit, they have both the credit, the income, and the equity in order to wait out the market and not lose their home. That brings us to our fourth and final reason why I think that the housing market crash may not happen this year in 2022, and that is equity. Most home buyers in this country already have way more than enough equity in their home in order to stave off a potential recession or market downturn, in order to stay in their homes completely comfortably. Between the home values being up already over 30% since the beginning of 2022, as well as the higher down payments that not only were required by lenders, but also were required by sellers to even get an offer accepted, a lot of home buyers have a ton of equity already in their home. Now, if we start seeing cash out refis starting to take a big upward trend, we may have something to deal with and something to be concerned about in that regard, that home buyers are being a little more risky with their cash out refis. This is nothing against cash out refis. I've done them myself and they are great, but only if you're taking that money and investing it somewhere else. We all know that most people take money out of their house and they put it towards something stupid like a car or a boat or something like that. So that will be something interesting to see going forward. Cash out refis, although I don't foresee it taking an upward trend right now because of the higher interest rates at 5% that we're seeing. So that's it. Those are 4 reasons why I think that the housing market won't crash in 2022. What do you think about these 4 reasons, and where do you think the housing market is going from here? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you got value or enjoyment out of this video, please smash the like button and hit the subscribe button as well to stay up to date. I will be giving you more and more housing market updates just like this. And yeah, see you next time, guys.